I feel like that's the worst, child. I don't know, but I just like this look, feeling the look. I first want to tell you guys what bipolar depression is, because a lot of people don't even really know what that is. So bipolar depression is a mental illness where there's an imbalance in the chemicals in your brain that cause you to have different moods. Now, a lot of people use bipolar as to describe the weather, to describe when someone changes their mind about something, to describe, lots of different things except for what it's really meant for, which is a mental illness. And I'm okay with that. I used to get really upset when people say, oh, the weather being bipolar, but I'm okay with that because people know what they know and they don't know what they don't know. And a lot of times people don't mean no harm to people who are actually dealing with that disease or illness. They don't mean no harm to us when they say that. They're just talking about the weather. I don't get upset about that anymore. I've matured past that. But when I was first diagnosed, it was very, very sensitive for me. And it's not necessarily up and down. I know people think it's up and down. It's more like a circle. It's more like a routine. It's more like a cynical type of thing. So that just means that we have times when we're up here, like say we're at the top of the circle, we're feeling great, and then our mood starts to change, and then we have some downsides and some irritability and some emotional switching, and then it goes around again and again and again, and it keeps going around. It's not necessarily up and down. It's more like all the way around. That might be hard for you to recognize if you're not someone who's dealing with it. So if you are someone who's dealing with bipolar depression, let them know down in the comment section if I didn't explain that right, okay? Explain what it's like for you, okay? So I actually have been dealing with this since 2009. Not 2009, I would say 2012. 2009 is when I really started to notice a difference in myself. But officially diagnosed was 2012. There were some events that led up to that. It was a lot of events that led up to that. I became homeless, okay? And I dealt with homelessness for several years, on and off, okay? I would have a place and something would go wrong and I have to go back to living with my sister. Now, I do define homelessness in different aspects. You can define it as someone who lives in a shelter. You can define it as someone who lives with family and friends and doesn't have their own space to call their own. You can define it as someone living in a tent on the side of the road. Whatever you define it as, I define my homelessness when I lost my house, I got evicted, I lost my job, I lost everything that I have, including my vehicle, and I had to go and live with my sister. Now you might say, okay, you live with your sister, you was comfortable, at least you had a roof over your head and things like that, but it wasn't the best situation. I was sleeping on the floor in the living room with my newborn child, which was Prince. I was sleeping on like a futon mattress with a newborn baby. My baby Prince had never had his own room, has never had a crib, has never had a nursery. He's always been up under me. And so we didn't move into this house. This is a house that I came to after homelessness. I thank God for this apartment. I've been here for 5 years. We came to this house when he was about 1.5 years, almost 2 years old. And he actually still was like sleeping with me because I had the other room. We had a 2-bedroom. And the other room was for my older kids. So it was me and Prince all the time. You guys talk about like weaning a child off and having them have their own room and things of that nature. Prince's situation is a little bit different because of how his beginnings were. He's always been with me because of our homelessness and stuff. And I feel really guilty about that, because I feel like that kind of like stumped his maturity level when it comes to him having his own room and being able to sleep on his own. But then I talked to other moms who didn't have homelessness and stuff, and they still struggle with it too, so then I feel better. So it is what it is. At some point in his life, he will sleep alone, but right now he still sleeps in the room with me, if you guys ever wondered, okay? The homelessness came, and then I had to live with my sister. I had to give up my other son, TJ, which is why he was living with his dad. Because when I moved in with my sister, she had a 3-bedroom, and there was already about 8 people living there. And so that's why I ended up on the floor. My son ended up Raymond, my oldest son, ended up on the couch in a room, like wherever he could find himself to sleep for the night. Raymond started to get into trouble. He started to get into, you know, gang life and stuff like that. He ended up getting into some legal trouble, which has nothing to do with gang, and I won't disclose what it was because that's his story to tell, not mine. So he got into a situation and we had to go to the police station. I had to kind of fight for him at a very young age. He was like 10 or 11 years old at this point. And they had to interrogate him, and I was behind this like glass wall, the mirror glass where you can see through but they can't see you. And I was watching the officer or the detective asking him all these questions, and him tearing up and him crying and him being very remorseful, and it broke my heart and it broke my brain. Okay, it was just something, it was just overwhelming, overpouring, too much for my emotional state and for my brain to take. And what ended up happening is he had court appointed therapy, and this is somewhat how I got introduced to therapy. I was in a therapy like group before for molestation and rape. It was like a group therapy session. It was only like 8 weeks or something like that. So I had done that before, but I had never had like one-on-one therapy. And I was sitting in the therapy chair with my son, talking to the therapist, and I was the one who needed a therapist. I was crying. I was feeling low. I was the one who needed the help. My son was really, he built up his confidence about what he did really quickly. He forgave himself really quickly, and he kind of bounced back. But me, I did not. So his therapist suggested that I go to therapy as well and get my own therapist. And so that's exactly what I did. And I got diagnosed with bipolar depression. Now, there's more to the story that I'm not telling all the intricate details. A lot of it came from my sister as well, who deals with bipolar depression. And she was telling me some of her symptoms and saying, you know, I kind of have some of the same things going on as she did, and the medication she was taking and things that she was doing to be mentally well. I, you know, got encouraged from her, encouragement from my son's then therapist to also seek help. And here we are. Okay, so it's been since 2012 that I have dealt with or known about or been diagnosed with bipolar depression. I am not perfect by any means, but if you knew me back then and you know me now, you can tell it's a complete difference. And a lot of people don't know me. It's a whole lot of people out there in the internet world, or who have come into contact with me like at church or at work, or, you know, in some sort of like social environment, and they think that they know me, but they don't know the true deep down inside of me what I was truly dealing with. And I don't think there's very many people that do know. I've been working with therapists on and off throughout my life. It has been really hard to find a really good therapist. I think I talked about this before. I think that the key to it is to not give up. Like, it gets hard and you get tired of talking to a new therapist and going back and telling what happened before and trying to get to know a new person and like repeating yourself and things of that nature. But you have to do the hard work. Okay. If you want to stay well, you got to stay in therapy. That's my opinion. Now, there are some people who wean themselves out of therapy because they are doing so well, and that's okay. And they just have like little times where they just kind of check back in here and there with their therapist, and it's not like a set schedule like what I have now. I meet with my therapist every 2 weeks, and that is like a set schedule that we have. We're working on a lot of the inner child work and things of that nature. When I first came to Charlotte, it was just like, there's no way I'm gonna find a therapist. And I stopped for a while. I realized I was getting back to those same symptoms, and we'll talk about symptoms in a little bit. But I realized that those same symptoms was coming back, and that I really needed to not only have a psychiatrist, and a psychiatrist is the one who prescribes your medications, and I also needed a psychologist, and a psychologist is like a therapist, or somebody you actually talk to. So when I moved here to Charlotte, which was about 5 years ago, it was very hard to find that person for me But thank God we found where we're still going strong with the one that we have right now. Y'all know there was a video where I talked about I might fire my therapist, and then, you know, I had to advocate for myself about what I needed. And now we're doing much better with, you know, I feel like I'm getting things out of our session that I really need. So that's important. Symptoms. So there are two really high points and low points. There's two really important points about bipolar. This is what people usually think is like the highs and the lows, like the up and the down thing. So there's hypermania and hypomania, and then there's the depression part of it. So hypermania is a part where and people may recognize you as a go-getter. You are on point. You are opening a lot of businesses. Hey, get away from my camera, Mike. You're opening businesses. You're being in a lot of relationships. You're having a lot of sexual activity. You are feeling on top of the world. You have this grandiose like attitude about yourself, like you can do anything, nobody can stop you. And people look at that and say, oh, she's confident, she's sure of herself, she's a go-getter, she works hard. But it's really a part of bipolar, because even though they're seeing the results of this hypomania, but on the inside you're not sleeping for days. I'm talking about days. Some people even weeks and months. They don't sleep and they don't feel tired. Okay, so there's a difference between insomnia and not being able to sleep, but you really are tired, and not sleeping, but you don't feel tired at all. Your body is tricking you to think that you don't need sleep. You need sleep, okay? And your body is breaking down, but your brain is telling you that you can keep going. So that's the danger in that. And I know a lot of people, I had one person, because I used to be in a group therapy session for bipolar people, and one guy described it like riding a bicycle down the hill and the brakes don't work. It's just like you keep going and going and going, and people think you're having fun, but you are really scared for your life. And that's how it feels, okay? So bipolar is not necessarily, oh, I'm happy today and I'm sad tomorrow. It usually spans over a week, weeks at a time. And there is like a clinical definition. If I can find it, I'll put it up on the screen. But if you have never had a hypermania experience or hypermania episode, you're not going to be diagnosed with bipolar, okay? You have to have had that experience at least once for you to be diagnosed with bipolar depression or bipolar disorder. So people think about depression and thinking you're sad. Okay, yes, it goes beyond sad, okay? You are suicidal. You want to kill yourself. You are telling yourself in your head that there is nothing better for you on this earth. There's nothing better for you in this world, that your family will be better off without you. Your job will be better off without you. The world itself will be better off without you. And it's such a heavy feeling. It is such a dramatic, heavy feeling. And it's like you can't control your thoughts. And I know a lot of people say with mindfulness thinking and positive self-talk and things like that to help to steer you into like good mental health. Well, when you have bipolar disorder, ain't no mindfulness, okay? Ain't no positive self-talk. You just cannot control it. And that is the difference. That is the difference between, oh, I'm just happy one day and I'm sad the next day. No, it happens on a cynical thing, and it has to happen for more than like 5 to 7 days for them to, in a cycle, for them to diagnose you with bipolar depression. So it's just not, oh, I'm happy and now I'm sad, okay? That's not it. It's a lot more into it than what you guys may think or even know about it. I did have both experiences. I had a hypomania experience, and I also had a very, very low depression experience where I've had several suicide attempts. Now, the good thing about it is that I'm not in and out of mental hospitals and things of that nature, which people in my family have been in and out of those facilities, and it's heartbreaking. But because I did find help and I did get medication and I did take care of myself, that truly made a difference in the healthy person that you see before you right now. Now, do I still have things that I need to work on? Absolutely. This is why I'm still in therapy. This is why I'm still taking my medication, because I was so consistent with it, and I did have like a stronger mind than a lot of people that I know of that has dealt with this. Then I feel like I'm doing a lot better than others. There's also bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. We won't get in that today. I would, if you guys want to know more about bipolar and things of that nature, let me know down in the comments, and we will do a separate video about that. Okay, I will give you all the like necessary research. I will talk about it in more depth. I will give you the clinical terms and all the things, okay, if you want me to dive into that. I am not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, so anything that I say is just my experience, okay, and what I have been told is not written in stone. So I don't want you guys to take it for a grain of salt and just be like, oh, what Kimberly said, this is blah blah blah, because everybody's going to experience something different, and times have changed since I've been diagnosed, and there may have been some new rules or some new things that has come up that I might not know about. Okay, so I'm just gonna be honest with you there. I've had suicidal attempts, and I've had the hypomania where I didn't sleep for weeks, and I started this new business, and I was outside the house. People didn't know it, but I was going to parties. I was very sexually active. People didn't know this. I had it wrapped up so tightly. And I was a church girl at this time, okay? And nobody knew. Nobody knew. So that's why it's like you don't know what people are going through. So you have to be nice to people. You have to be considerate of other people's lives and things of that nature, because you don't know what they're going through. People didn't know. People had no clue. But I thank God that he brought me out of that. Okay, so now how am I doing today? Okay, so I went to the funeral, and I had to go back home. If you guys didn't see that video, I'll pop it up here. I'll link it down below. But if you saw that video and the video before it where I had a therapy session, you guys know that I had some anxiety about seeing my molester, or seeing people that had molested me in my hometown. Luckily, I didn't see anyone. Luckily, I had a great experience. But that brought up a lot for me, right? Because it's things that I haven't dealt with in a long time. I did have a therapy session just today. Talked about some of the things that I felt, because there were some things that came up at the funeral, but I had some really good coping skills, and I was able to deal with it. And it was like, it smoothed itself over, and everything ended up being a-okay. I'm doing much better, okay? As long as I have been taking my medications, going to therapy, I feel great. There was a time when I had some fluctuations and changes in my medicine where we were trying to find the right match for me. Some medications weren't working, and I was going through a tough time. And that was literally about 5 or 6 months ago. So it really wasn't that long ago. So I was starting to feel those same negative thoughts. I was starting to feel suicidal and things of that nature about 5 or 6 months ago. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. It's okay. I'm just at a point now where I can talk about it, and hopefully this can help somebody else. Now that I've found a good medication combination, and we can talk about medications and things that I've been on in a separate video, and things that work for me, things that didn't work for me. If you are interested, just leave that comment down below, and I'll make a whole nother video talking about medication, talking about what bipolar is in a more in-depth conversation about. Now that we have a good combination of medication, and I've found, a pretty good therapist, we're doing well. One of the things that we talked about in session today is how much I have grown with recognizing what I need to work on and actually working on it. It's one thing to recognize it, and it's another thing to actually work on it. So people know, hey, this is the type of person I am. This is just who I am. And they decide not to work on that. Okay? They just decide to live their whole life being who they are. Disrespectful, rude, indecisive, fearful, dealing with anxiety and depression. They're just like, oh, this is just life. This is just This is just life. They don't want to work on it. I'm quite the opposite, honey. I want to be the best that I can be. And even if it takes me a lifetime, which being your best self is always going to take a lifetime, because you're constantly changing and you're constantly having different stages of life that you may need to like update yourself to fit into, if that makes sense. I'm willing to do the work. I think I'm in a really good space. The only thing that bothers me from time to time is my singleness, okay? I feel a lot of guilt about relationships not working out, and I feel a lot of loneliness, and I also feel a lot of like worthlessness, where I don't feel worthy of a relationship. And this is some of the things that we're working on in therapy. You know, why am I constantly choosing the wrong person? Why am I constantly choosing somebody who's not emotionally available, who's not really serious about loving me, who is not a genuine person at all, like in general? So those are some of the things that we've been working on. And then another piece of that is like me working on how I'm dealing with my sisters. I really do love my sisters so much, and I have really 5 of them because I adopted one, but I have 4 sisters, like blood sisters. I have 4, and then I adopted one. It's my 5th sister. But I really do love them. I have a great relationship. Well, I have a semi-great relationship with some of them, but I would like to go deeper in our relationship. I would like to be there for them, and vice versa, them be there for me on a more, what would we call it? A more emotional level. We're very surface, like we're there for each other, but we're not like there for each other, like when it comes to heart matters. So I would really like to be on that level with them. A lot of it depends on what they're ready for, right? It's not like I can want it all day long, but if they don't want it, it ain't happening. If they're not ready for it mentally, it's not happening. And so that's some of the roadblocks that I'm hitting. Is like, why can't I build relationships like, you know, the way that I want to? Even when it comes to just girlfriends, you know, friends in general. I want more mom friends. I want more friends in my city. I want more friends that I can like rely on a day-to-day basis, not necessarily, you know, when something's happening, you know, just like someone in my corner. Like my best friend will always be there all the time, right? I know that I can always count on my bestie and things like that. I'm just talking about someone here in my city. Like, why is it so hard for me to make friends with people here in my city? What am I afraid of? And what is it that I'm bringing from other friendships or other relationships or other situations that's holding me back from, you know, developing true lifelong friends? So those are some of the things that are bothering me now. Some of the things that I've been working on now. It's more like relationship stuff. It's not necessarily depression stuff or like self-worth. Well, part of it is self-worth. Part of it is self-worth. Outside of that, we've been doing great. We've been doing great. I'm making progress, and progress is better than being stagnant. Okay? So we're making progress. We're not perfect, but we're making progress. Now let's talk about these men folk. Because there's been a few, okay, that has been in and out of my life, and that I don't really know how I feel about it. I've told you guys about Neighbor. I told you guys about the friend that I wish was more than a friend. If you watch that video all the way to the end, you'll see that. And you guys, most of you guys who've been here for a while, y'all know about Hubjarian. So these are the 3 people that keeps popping in and out of my life, and I'm ready to move on. Like, really, truly, and honestly, I'm ready to move on, because I can't be wishy-washy. I can't be back and forth. And I was so proud of myself, because a situation came up twice with the friend that I wish was more than a friend and Neighbor, that I could have been physically active with them, and God gave me a way out. And I say God because I prayed in both of those situations that He would provide a way out for me if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I know it's not what I'm supposed to be doing, because fornication is not of God. Fornication is not a good way to honor my body or the Lord, and I claim myself to be a Christian since August of 2008. You heard me? So absolutely, this is not something that I wanted to do. So obviously, God provided that way out. Now, in times in the past, God will provide several way out. Still be trucking along. It's going to work out, God. Just bless it. And he's constantly trying to drag me out of it, and I'm not taking the way out. I'm trying to like mend it, you know? So I'm really proud of myself that God has brought me to that point. I'm ready to meet somebody new, even if it's not romantic. I'm just want like a male friendship that is a real male friendship, that someone I'm compatible with, someone I can trust around my kids, someone I can trust that they are, you know, living for Christ, and that they are, you know, praying for me and things like that. And then if it develops into a relationship, then that's just the icing on the cake. So I'm ready for something more mature than what I have been used to. Well, the guy who I wish was more than a guy friend, when we last met up, I saw so many red flags. So many red flags. Not just on his end, on my end too. The way that I was interacting with him, definitely a lot of red flags in that whole situation. So I don't mind like talking to him here and there, like on the holidays. If I go back home, I'm gonna holler at him and we can get a drink or whatever, we can chill out. But as far as like him being in my everyday life and me wanting to be super close with him, I think I'm ready to let that go. Neighbor, I'm not even sure that it's worth having a conversation with him. I'm not even sure it's worth like taking the time to talk about it. I think we just need to walk away and cut it off and keep it moving. Only because we never had any type of like conversation or like connection outside of being physical. And I mean, we never even talk about how our day went or anything, you know what I'm saying? So there's nothing there that says, oh, I owe him a conversation. To me, no. I've already given you my body several times and it was great, but I don't owe you nothing. I can just walk away, wash my hands of it. And the only thing that like really keeps me like super interested is when I see him. When I see him, the memories just come back, and I'm just like, ooh, if I could have that again. But God is saying, child, I got something better for you. Leave that alone. So being obedient in that sense is very tough because he's a neighbor. Like, I'm really close. We're really close to each other. And then Hubgerian, that's somebody I have to deal with for the rest of my life. It's a little bit harder for me to like really cut off all ties. You know what I'm saying? I do still have a lot of love in my heart for him. I do still care about him. But I think in this situation, what I'm asking God for is to help us to be friends. Help us to be friends. Like, I don't want to hate him. I don't hate him. Yes, there's a lot going on between us, especially financially. He's not being a provider right now. But I'm praying that things change in that area and that we can become friends and we can become great co-parents and we can become a great blended family in some sort of way, but not romantic. Now, when I think about him, most of the time it's more so like, wow, we never had a chance to really be in a relationship, because as soon as we got going, things just fell apart so quickly. And the trajectory of our relationship just went the total opposite way that I could have never imagined it going that way. And I feel like it was too short-lived. Like, we need another chance to really have a relationship. That's been my biggest thing. It's like we never had a chance to actually have a relationship, and I want that chance back. But again, I don't think that's what God wants for me right now. Maybe sometime in the future, maybe we will reconnect in a way, and things will, you know, improve in a way that we can get back together, like on a more serious tip. But right now, it's not happening. My relationship with him is more like, I care about you. I want you to be well. I want you to know what's going on in your kid's life. I want to do what I can to make sure that we keep in touch and that you are, you know, you have the opportunity to have this relationship with your kid. And I want I want your happiness to come first. I want you to take care of yourself, things like that. That's where I am with him. It's not necessarily romantic. So those are the 3 people that I can tell you guys about, because that's pretty much, that's been all the in and out of my life for the last couple years, maybe. So that's it. It's life updates. You guys can stay tuned to my YouTube channel and see my daily vlogs. I know that we're wrapping up with Vlogmas, but I do still plan to pump out vlogs like at least once a week, so you can keep up with my life. You can keep up with things that are going on with my daily vlogs. I really appreciate your time today, especially if you got all the way to the end. If you got all the way to the end, leave me a brain and say hashtag mental health. No, hashtag mental wellness. So put a brain icon, hashtag mental wellness. Okay, I appreciate you guys so much. We are a channel that has been around for years and has not hit some of the milestones that a lot of these people have hit. I've been in this channel for more than 5 years, more than 5 or 6 years, and I haven't even hit 1,000, but yeah. But I thank God, because I feel like the people that he are bringing to me are people who are genuinely by my side and genuinely want to see me do well. So I definitely appreciate you guys, each and every watch, share, comment, thumbs up, heart. Even some of you guys follow me on Instagram, and so I really appreciate you guys, and I thank God for you. Let's just keep growing, baby. Let's just keep growing and getting more and more well, getting better and better with ourselves, okay? And I will see you guys on my next video, which will be tomorrow, okay? Bye.